Welcome. Thanks for joining this special episode of Tiger Bite. I'm Derek Smith. With no team action around Glasgow this weekend, Brian and I thought we'd do something a little different and take you down a little trip down memory lane, but not too far back into the past because my mind doesn't quite go that far back. And of course, to help me navigate through, memory lane, I have my right-hand man lined up, the Proclaimer's love child himself, Brian Copeland. Good morning to you, Brian.
Hello, Derek. Thanks for inviting me to join you on this special edition of Tiger Bite. And you pretending not to be old enough to remember past the days of Shane Parker and Robert Ksiezak. I don't think that's going to fly with anyone, I'm afraid.
It was convincing when I said the word, Brian, at least. Yes, so we have, we previewed this show at the end of last week. We did our last Tiger Bite, and it seemed a good idea at the time to catch up with Shane and Robert, who are sitting in someone's living room in Adelaide. Shane and Robert, good evening to you.
Good evening or good morning. How are you guys? How are you?
Good. We're good, thanks. But you guys look a lot happier than we do. It's Sunday morning here, you know.
Yeah, we've had an afternoon in the pub, so yeah, we're doing fine at the moment.
It's Sunday evening, so we're just cruising along.
Well, Brian and I are draining as you say those words, but let's crack on and catch up with you guys. So first things first, thanks for letting us cut into your Sunday night. Hope you've had a good weekend, and we wanted just to sit down with you guys and understand how life is treating you, what you're up to these days to make a living, and have a look back, I guess, at some of the old days back, especially around your days riding for Glasgow. So first things first, Shane, let's turn to you first of all. Nice to see you, Mr. Parker, looking fit and well. How's life treating you in Adelaide these days?
Oh, it's not too bad. It's a bit different doing a 9-to-5 job, more or less, compared to racing a bike. It's a completely different lifestyle. Used to be a night owl and not go to bed till 2 or 3 in the morning when I raced, and now I'm up at the crack of dawn before the sun's even up, actually. So it's one extreme to the other. But I've done an adult apprenticeship since coming home and got myself into a new job. So it's a whole new beginning, really, back to school for me, and learning again really sucks.
Sounds like you're living the dream, Shane. You still getting your hands dirty these days?
Now and again, get my hands dirty. I'm doing a bit of coaching over here. I haven't actually done any riding for 3 years now. I rode, came home and done 2 state titles and finished runner-up in both of them. One was to Bachelor, I think, and the other one was to Cameron Woodward. Apart from that, I haven't done any racing on the Speedway. So apart from coaching now, helping the young kids out and doing a few coaching days here and there, that's about it as far as Speedway goes.
Excellent. And Robert, how about yourself? How's life treating you these days?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Just working away, same as Shane. It's a bit of an adjustment to have it start get up early and all that, and work for a living that doesn't involve racing bikes. But yeah, recently I've started working for myself, so it's yeah, can't complain, mate. Can't complain. Still having a bit of a play on the bikes and that. Not so much the Speedway bikes, but can't complain overall, mate.
So is it only now at this stage in your life that you realise that Speedway wasn't a bad way to earn a living?
I think you always whinged about it when you've done it. A lot of miles travelled and living out of a suitcase a lot of the times. But that were the good parts, I think. At the end of the day, you don't realise them when you're doing it, but you look back now and think you probably enjoyed them periods a little bit more than you did at the time. So
yeah, you moaned about it a lot at the time. Oh, yeah. It was hard to but then now when you look back and you've got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, and you think, geez, that was all right back then.
Yeah, if I was 10 years younger.
Brian, it sounds like you and I don't have such a bad way of life after all.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, guys, you mentioned that or Shane, you mentioned in particular that you were still helping out on the Speedway scene a little bit. And the kids, do you both keep tabs on the sport still, both in Australia and back over here?
In Australia, I do. I'm still involved a little bit with Speedway over here as far as club and motorcycle in Australia goes. So as far as British Speedway, when I left the UK, I mean, I was was a big part of my life. 22 years I was over there, and I completely switched off from British Speedway and didn't follow it and didn't actually want to know what was going on because I missed it so much, and I, just had to switch off altogether. Probably followed the Grand Prix, and that's about it. I'm probably the last year or two sort of kept a bit of a tab on the British League, but apart from that, not a great deal. I've sort of had to try and give it up because I missed it too much.
That makes sense. Excuse me, that makes sense. Robert, we've seen you across in Glasgow when you done your European tour. Just was it last year, Robert, you were across and had a look around?
Yeah, it was a year ago, I think pretty much to the day. And yeah, we come over for a few weeks and went over to Poland for the GP, and then spent 3 weeks in Glasgow and Scotland. And yeah, apart from that, I haven't really been keeping an eye too much on the British League. I still sort of have a look at Glasgow's going because I spent most of my time there, so have a bit of an eye on it. And yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener when I went over last year and seeing how good the stadium is now there. It's a lot better, and it's a bit different when we were there. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
but,
we're about 10 years too early.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
it's looking like it's going places there now, which is very promising.
A good thing too to see is like all the publicity, the video clips you see at Glasgow Speedway, and yeah, it's definitely good. There's not too many clubs that do that, and to be able to sit back and watch a little clip or whatever promoting the club, it's good. Definitely a step forward.
I think you're right, guys. There's been a bit of a revolution, and Glasgow probably have done a lot of the leading the charge around that, and that's on track and off track. Shane, desperate for you to come across and have a look around as well. Any plans to?
I know the missus she's itching to get back. We've been here 5 years now, and she hasn't been home yet. So when I say home, I mean Coventry's her home. But if we ever come back, I'll definitely do a trip up to Glasgow and pay everybody a visit. And I seen one of the questions was about having a ride. It's if I did come back, I'd love to get on a bike and do 4 more laps around Glasgow. It'd be great fun.
Well, I'm sure that could be arranged, Shane, if Ange allows it.
I'll tell you what, I tried 4 laps around Glasgow last year when I was there, and it wasn't very good, mate. I'll tell you that much.
Is that yourself or the track, Robert?
Probably a combination. More so me. I was a little bit rusty. I struggled a bit. I'll tell you that much.
It's hard over here. I mean, the Speedway season lasts 4 months, and you're lucky if you probably do 10 meetings over here in a season. Compared to over there, you're racing 3-4 times a week. It's you get used to tracks and conditions, and
yeah. You know, Shane, you mentioned there 5 years you've now been back in Oz, and even more remarkably, it's 8 seasons since you last lined up as a Glasgow rider. I know we've seen you. I think correct me if I'm wrong. Your very last meeting in the UK was for Glasgow.
Yep, and
a wet. That's right. A wet October afternoon against Edinburgh.
Yes, against the Scum, and I won the last race. Yeah, no, I've got a lot of admiration for the Edinburgh supporters. I mean, you need to get the old aggro thing happening. It's good, a bit of banter. As long as it don't go over the top and out of control, it's always good for the sport. It keeps people keen and also keeps them entertained, So I do miss rocking up at Edinburgh on parade with a nappy and a big duck.
Well, Brian and I can confirm that rivalry is as keen as ever, it ever has been. And this season in particular, both Scottish clubs are at the top of the championship, and things are high profile over here at the moment.
Yeah, good to see that both clubs are going all right. They need each other to keep each other going, so it's good to see them at the top battling it out.
Robert, of course, you have the. On you go, Brian.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Robert, have you been back on a bike much since you returned to Australia?
No, not really. When I first got back, I'd done a couple of meetings, and I'd done a couple of classic meetings on an old upright, a 2-valve bike, and a Westlake. And I think we've actually only, when we rode together at Wayville, probably 2-3 years ago now. So probably 3 years. Last time we sort of.
We actually do a bit of enduro riding now. We've got some 450 KTMs and do a lot of marshal sweep riding for the state off-road rounds they have here, and so yeah, a bit of that, and that's what keeps us entertained now. It's not racing, but it's a fun ride and enjoyable that we go out and do and have a bit of fun. I took Robert for one ride, and we got to the fourth corner, and the idiot fell off his bike and knocked himself out cold. And had to drive him to the hospital because he couldn't remember whether he had ambulance cover or not.
That's all right. We won't mention your last ride, will we, folks?
No. We shouldn't. I stepped off 7
Well,
ago and broke a collarbone for the 3rd time, a couple of ribs, and tore my spleen. So we're having a ball over here riding still.
Yeah, we've been reading on Facebook, Shane, that you seem to be single-handedly keeping the Australian Health Service in check.
I haven't been in the best of health of late, but no, I had the crash on my bike September last year, so 7-8 months ago. And leading up to Christmas, didn't feel too well, and went to the doctors and had a blood test done, and got diagnosed with Graves' disease, so which is an overactive thyroid. So I've been losing weight rapidly, looking very gaunt, and not having a lot of energy, and not sleeping too well, and a load of other side effects and symptoms and bits and pieces. But I've since had treatment for that, and hopefully on the mend, I've actually hit 60 kilos, which has been a first for the last 4 or 5 months. And I dropped down to about 55, 56 kilos. So
wow. That sounds like a drastic way to lose some weight, Shane, but things seem to be regulated for you now, yeah? You're on the way back up.
Yeah, I'm built for speed, mate, not comfort, so all good. Job's on.
And
yeah,
that glass in your hand,
mate,
that glass in your hand, purely medicinal as well, I'd imagine.
Well, to be fair, mate, I'd gone off Jack Daniels. I hadn't had one over Christmas or New Year's. 4 or 5 months I'd gone without a drink, and I said to the missus, I know I'm not well when I can't handle a JD&K.
That's not the Shane Parker that we remember.
No. I used to love me Davey mixes up in the bar there at Glasgow.
Your Davey mixes. Robert, I'm going to test you. I know you've enjoyed a glass of refreshment today. Robert, I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot, and ask you to recall all of the British clubs that you ever raced for.
British clubs. Okay. Glasgow, Bellevue, Stoke, Plymouth.
Your very first club?
Edinburgh. Yeah, there we go.
Well, that sounds about right, Robert. That sounds about right. Robert, tell me
from that. I think Pool missing from that one.
Pool missing, yeah, that was a bit of a funny one. I'd sort of signed for them. I'd done a meeting, and someone put in a protest, and I wasn't eligible to ride supposedly. So it was a bit of a controversial one. I had signed and done a meeting, and after the one meeting, I wasn't allowed to ride again. So I don't know what the deal was there, but yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, that was a bit of an issue.
Robert, tell us what racing you ever done in your traditional homeland of Poland. Which clubs did you actually race for over there?
I rode for Torun in 2008. I was still racing in Glasgow that year, so I'd only done a handful of meetings when it wasn't clashing on a Sunday. That was the year actually they won the league, and then the next year I rode for Apollo. So I only actually done 2 years in Poland. It would have been nice if I could do a bit more, but because I was racing in Glasgow, it sort of clashed and made it a bit hard. But it was still a very enjoyable time to do it over there. It was good with well, when I say homeland, Australia's my homeland, but it was good to ride in Poland. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Well, Torun isn't a bad club to have been involved with, Robert, especially in a championship winning season.
Yeah, it was.
Shane, how about you? And we put you on the same spot as Robert. You might need some more time than Robert did, but remind me all the British clubs that you ever raced for.
Shit, I knew he was going to ask me that question. Ipswich, Middlesbrough, Kings Lynn, Peterborough, Bellevue, Hull, Glasgow, Somerset, Sheffield.
I think you've got the lot, Shane. Well done. Well done. No hesitation at all. Shane, one interesting question, because you mentioned a 22-year professional race career. You raced all of those seasons over in the UK. But out of all those clubs that you've just listed, Glasgow was the club that you rode for the longest, 6 seasons, I think it was. What was it about Glasgow or circumstances in your life that led to such an affiliation with Glasgow?
I think there was the fun I had up there. You know, I just seemed to fit in really well and enjoyed my time up there. And the only drag about the whole deal with the 6 years of racing was the travelling. You know, some days, I remember one trip took us 8 hours to get up to Glasgow from home, for normally 4.5-hour trip. There's a crash or a traffic jam, and yeah, I mean, that was a bit frustrating travelling. But apart from that, I mean, the people up there were great. I had a great time. Enjoyed staying up there, and enjoyed the rivalry with Edinburgh especially, and always played on that. So yeah, it was a bit weird. My last year in the UK ended up with an email from a guy from Adelaide, and he claimed to be my biological father, and it turned out that it really was my biological father, and I'd never met him or knew him before in my life, and he was only born a couple of miles from the Ashfield track. So
wow.
Springburn, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was born at Springburn, so maybe that's sort of why I felt so at home at Glasgow. I don't know. But,
Isn't that absolutely crazy? Of all the places in all of the world, yeah.
Unreal. It's really weird. I mean, since coming home to Australia and retiring, I've gone on and met my dad, and yeah, it's crazy.
So Shane, you're actually part Scottish then?
Yeah, I am.
Can we claim that?
My mother was English, my dad's Scottish, so I'm 50% Scottish. There you go.
If only we had known that 10 years ago, Shane.
Very true.
Yeah, we could have stolen you for some of those internationals that we didn't do too well in. Robert, you obviously touched on your career back here and racing in places like Poland. You also had stints in the top flight in Britain as well. What was it like to be racing in what was then the Elite League in Britain? Did you feel as though you were able to mix it amongst the kind of top guys in this country at that time?
Yeah, at the stage it was awesome. It was probably my best year I had racing in the UK was 2008, and I was doubling up with Bellevue, and at the time I was probably going through one of my better years. I was doing good in the Premier League. I was racing in Poland, racing nearly every day or every second day between the two leagues, and doing a bit in Poland, and yeah, things were going great for me. But after that, things took a bit of a turn, and things went downwards. But yeah,
I think injuries pegged you back.
Yeah,
doing your ankle, and
they did. Yeah, they did. But I mean, at the time, it was really good, and I remember races in the Elite League where I could beat some of the heat leaders, you know, and things were going pretty good. But yeah, just certain aspects didn't turn out the way I sort of planned. But that's the way it goes, isn't it? Not everyone can be world champion.
Guys, I was going to ask you the question. Notwithstanding your health troubles and injuries since you've retired, are you haunted at all these days by any Speedway related injuries? Robert, you always had trouble with your knee, for example. Does that bother you these days?
Yes and no. I do have quite a few dramas, but I mean, for just normal life, it's okay. But if I want to get a little bit more active than that, it does.
He's been limping all bloody afternoon. His missus took him to walk up some hill, because we've got no hills in Adelaide. He's gone up this hill and he can't walk today.
Yeah. My joints aren't in the best of nick, but that's the way it goes.
I think most guys that rode Speedway had a few injuries suffer. It's inevitable, you know to expect that. I mean, at the time you don't think about it, but when you've retired and down the road, it can be a bit of a problem. I think it's morning and getting going, and need to oil a few of the joints, but price you pay for having a bit of fun, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a glass of oil you've got, Shane, is it?
You got
Well,
it, mate.
yeah, that's it, mate. That's what we need. That's why we're still cruising along.
When you talk about injuries there, and when you're still riding, how much of a psychological impact do injuries have on you as a rider?
You can't focus on that when you ride an injury. It's difficult when you're coming back from an injury. It's always in the back of your mind, but that's Decipher's professional rider and an amateur rider. You've got to put that out of your mind and focus on your racing and worry about your injuries on the way home or when you finish your racing. It's
once you start to think about it too much, you sort of know it's probably time to give it up if you're doubting yourself because you think that you're going to get injured or about your injuries, then it's probably time that you put it away because it's you're not doing anyone any favors if you just keep doubting yourself. So yeah.
Shane, one injury in particular I was going to remind you of was back in the summer of 2005, a sunny night at Newport Speedway, an early heat, and you tumbled out with a broken collarbone. But worryingly, it was only 2 weeks until the Premier League Pairs at Glasgow.
You
remember that one?
We were fine at Newport because what happened was the doctor come over and give me the bottle of laughing gas. And about a heat later, Stuart Robson knocked himself out on the first and second bend. So the doctor said, I've got to go, I'll be back. So he left me with this bottle of laughing gas. So I was fine at the mate. But I went and seen Brian Simpson in Ipswich prior to the Pairs with, I think it was George was my partner that year, 2005.
That's right.
Right. And
that's correct.
Yeah, I had a few laser treatments with Brian Simpson, and he told me, he goes, you don't really need a collarbone. He goes, if you can put up with the pain, you'll be fine. And ended up struggling through the meeting and winning the meeting with George. So that was a bit of an achievement, but it was a very painful meeting.
Happy days for the Tigers fans. It was the first trophy we'd won of any note in a long, long time, Shane. So thank you very much for that.
Don't worry. No, that was the collarbone I re-broke 7 months ago. I've done it 3 times now.
Oh dear. You don't need a collarbone.
If you're, Shane, first of all, speaking to you, if you were to look back on your Glasgow career, that would be undoubtedly one of the highlights, winning the Pairs. I think you won it twice, 2 seasons in a row. Is there any other particular meeting or moment you would pick out as a highlight, or would it be those Pairs meetings?
Well, I think, winning the Scottish Cup or winning any event against Edinburgh, to be honest with you, that was normally a bit of a highlight, and we enjoyed that. And one thing that was definitely not a highlight was the press and practice day that we went to escape with Ross Brady when he snapped his collarbone. That was a good start of the season. Breaking collarbone, and we go, well, you didn't come with us and you're not here and we're not skiing, okay? It was nothing to do with us. So. Yeah, a bit unfortunate. Ross, unfortunately, had actually wrecked his season. He missed the whole season. Well, he came back, but he wasn't fully fit. So, we had some good time there. There's one thing at Glasgow, we always had a really good team spirit and always got on really well. That was a big part of it. It was good, with Stuart Dixon was one of the promoters with Alan Dick, and I believe Stewie's now the team manager. I reckon he'd make a great team manager. So I can see things are going well for you, and hope you have a good season.
Thank you very much. Robert, when you look back on your own British career, in particular with Glasgow, what stands out for you as being a memory that makes you smile?
The best season with Glasgow, I reckon, was 2006. I'm pretty sure we finished 3rd in the league that year, and it was we had a great team. We had Danny Bird and Kaki, and that was a good year. It was a great year. The previous year I'd struggled a bit, and then we had quite a good team spirit. Everything was going good. We ended up finishing 3rd. It was pretty good. That was probably the most fun and best team achievement I achieved when we were racing over there. So that's probably my best time I had over there.
Thank you. I'm going to pick up a couple of questions that supporters posted on Facebook, and it sounds like you guys have had a look at these, which is helpful. Andrew Bailey says, when you remember Shane at Ashfield, Shane was the master of stalking an opponent. And the question from Andrew is, were you always confident, Shane, of picking your moment to pass people around Ashfield?
I was good at setting people up. I was good at selling them a dummy. I'd always show them my front wheel and make them think I was going to come up the inside. And generally around the third and fourth bend, they'd drop it down really tight because they'd sim my front wheel 2 or 3 times up the inside of that corner, and I'd do the old big blast around the outside. So it was just sort of more race sense than anything, you know, trying to make them think I'm going to do one thing and do the opposite. So it's I'd done exactly the same thing at Sheffield my last year of racing. Used to show me front wheel up the inside for a couple of laps and then do the big high, wide and handsome around the outside. So always used to like
the smaller and in yellow tail piper.
A joy to behold, Shane. Many memories of you doing exactly as you've described. I can remember one race in particular that frightened the life out of me, and it was you and James Greaves going hammer and tong, and both upended on the 4th turn. Do you remember that one?
I actually looked at. I've got 2 pictures of that crash, and I was looking at it on my computer today. And there's me on the bottom with Greavesy on top of me, and both bikes on top of both of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do remember it. I knocked myself out, and I wanted to do the rerun, but I didn't quite make the rerun of that race.
Robert, I've got to, you're in good spirits and you're smiling, and I hope you don't mind me bringing up a memory I have of you, Robert, which was I can't remember who Glasgow were racing against, but you were winning by a mile in Heat 15. I think you might even have clinched the match for Glasgow. If only you'd crossed the finishing line, and you didn't. You remember coming off the 4th turn and you ended up through the fence just before the start line?
I do remember that, yeah.
It was huge.
It wasn't a good one. If I remember right, I think I busted my collarbone in that one as well. I think we were having a double header that meeting.
That's right.
That was a Heat 15 of the first meeting, and yeah, it was. We needed a win in that Heat 15 to clinch the match, and I think Stuart Dixon had his arms up in the air and everything in the pits, and all of a sudden I picked up a bit of drive. I detuned my bike a bit to get a bit more drive in that race, and I think I probably overdone it a little bit and ended up through the fence. But halfway back to the pits, I realised I'd busted my collarbone, so that was a little bit. I wasn't going out in Heat 1 in the second meeting. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed. There we go.
At least you can look back and smile, Robert, as we all can, thankfully.
Yeah, that's it. That's the main thing.
So, sorry for dipping out for a second there, guys, some technical problems. You're obviously talking about some memorable races, and one in particular that stuck out in my mind. If I'm right in saying it was you two in the same heat, and I think, Shane, you were trying to sort of team ride Robert round for a 5-1, and someone came around and pitched you on the line. Am I right in remembering that? Is that one you recall?
It wouldn't have been Mr. Fisher, would it?
It may well have been, yeah.
I think I've got a picture of that in my shed, standing up in the pits with me shoulders on me hips, with Fisher walking off the track, waiting for him to come back to the pits. Actually, yeah. No, that was he was always a very hard rider, and you always know who the hard riders are and remember who the hard riders are and give them as good as they get.
You knew what you got from fish, so that was good.
See the stress that you guys caused us over the years.
Right. Oh, good, mate. I'm sure you've enjoyed it. That's why you go and watch, isn't it? So,
absolutely, pal. Shane, talking about, but Brian mentioned team riding Robert there, and one skill that you were noted for, in many respects above all other riders that certainly visited Ashfield, was team riding. And you always were keen to look out for your young teammate and nurse them around for 4 laps.
Yeah, I mean, with more bonus points, it always used to help your average out, you know, because your bonus points didn't count to your average. So the more bonus points you got, the lower your average was, which was better for team building. So that's one reason I used to like the bonus points. Second reason was you get 2 riders side by side, it's very hard to pass. So yeah, I grew up doing junior speedway, and back in junior speedway there used to be like 24 juniors there when we were growing up. So we used to have teams event regularly, and we grew up team riding and got used to doing it. And I mean, a good example of team riding used to be Greg Hancock and Billy Hamill. They both used to team ride very good together, and yeah, it's just part of racing. I think when it's teams racing, there's not too many people that do it. A lot of riders tend to head down and ass up and leave their teammate for dead. But you know, sometimes that 1 or 2 points can win you a match, you know, over 2 legs. So it can be important to team ride.
I think without you, I would have missed out on quite a few points as well.
Yeah,
especially in early days, I would have missed out on a few points if it wasn't for your help. So,
yeah, it's given a bit of confidence to the other guys in the team too. You know, if they go out and win a race, you feel good, and it inspires you a bit. You know, team spirit,
Robert, as the younger rider in that situation, when you're going out with a more experienced heat leader, for example, and you've spoken before the race and you've hatched some plan about trying to team ride, does it put more pressure on you in some senses because you've got to do something that you're not accustomed to doing normally?
No, it was. I used to love racing with Shane. It was good. You know, I was down the lower order, so I mean, I knew I was always a pretty decent gator, so I knew if I made a gate and Shane was there with me, we would. All I had to do was ride 4 laps, and Shane would look after me. And one time out of 10, we'd have 3 or 2 on a bonus. So that was it was pretty good that way. It feels a bit of confidence if you know you've got a good teammate here, then you know you just do your 4 laps and you're right. It's puts a bit of pressure on if you know you're not riding well and you're sort of slowing up your teammate, but
there used to be 1 or 2 riders that used to do that. It used to be hard when you got a teammate that didn't get going. Yeah, especially if you got somebody behind you that's got a bit of speed.
If I mentioned James Cockle, Shane, would he be one of those guys?
James, you know, he was a good racer for
good gator. He always got out the gate.
He could get out the gate.
Yeah.
You can only talk to a brick wall so many times.
I hear you.
Shane, one of the other things you were famed for around Ashfield was kind of stalking your opponent for 3.5 laps before deciding to make a last bend swoop on them. How many of those were just for fun, and how many were genuine attempts to try and get past someone?
It weren't for fun, mate. It was all for money. No. Derek asked me that question earlier. Actually, it must have been when we lost you. But I generally used to try and sell on the dummy. I'd show them my front wheel up the inside for a couple of laps, and then do the blast round the outside. So it was sometimes they'd fall for it, but not all the time. So it was always difficult for me when you had a track that was very slick. Always was a little bit better for me when you had a track with a bit of grip, so you could have a go when you were behind. I was never a gator in my day.
Another thing I wanted to ask you both, and Shane and Robert, you're both equal in my respect in this particular regard. Both of you very much threw your all into promoting the club and promoting the sport off track. And you'll remember Glasgow Speedway, Gary Condé was very involved in it, ran some schools activities, and you guys were always quick to say, yes, we'll do it. And lend a hand, and it was something, I guess, that not too many riders these days are keen to give up some spare time to do that type of thing. But you obviously both thought it was an important thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's quite important to promote the sport. I mean, our whole life experience is based around it, you know, and without the sport, we wouldn't have had the career that we had, and it's quite important to promote it and try to get it out to the people to try to keep the sport running. I mean, the more people we get through the gate and get interested in it, and I mean, especially we've done a lot with the schools. We wanted to get young kids going to the Speedway, you know. That's what it's about, you know. And from that, you know, all it takes is 10% or 1% of them to stay back or actually want to become a racer. So yeah, it was quite important to me.
It was great to be able to use the Rangers Study Centre too. You know, to be able to take the school kids to the study centre, and they had computers there. They could go on and come to the meeting and fill out a program. So they're doing all your 3 2s and 1s, all your 0.5 1s, 4 2s,
Yep.
and working out mathematics and things like that, you know. So it was an educational forum, and also introducing the sport of Speedway. So it's just giving a little bit back to the community, I think, which can go a long way when you have problems maybe with dust with your track, with local houses and noise problems. And if you're shown to be doing something back in the community, it can go a long way.
It was very much appreciated, and it'd be lovely to think there are some Glasgow fans who are regular attendees today who were inspired by you guys. So thanks for doing that.
No worries.
No worries.
Looking at the Speedway scene on an international level, guys, you mentioned earlier on the Grand Prix series. We now have a Grand Prix back in Australia again. Is that good for the sport? I can imagine it must be good for the sport down under.
Me. It's definitely good for Australian Speedway. Reason being, you know, we got Chris Holder, ex-world champion, and we got Doyley, who should have won it last year, and you couldn't get any better time for Australian Speedway to have a Grand Prix in our country. It's must be great for them guys to ride there, and you know, we've done a 5-year deal. We've had 2 years of the Grand Prix. We've got 3 to go. I know the numbers were down a little bit last year as far as viewing goes, so I hope the spectator audience is a little bit bigger this year.
Last year we were up against Phillip Island.
Yeah, they had the MotoGP on the same weekend as the Speedway Grand Prix, which I don't think helped. But you know, I mean, Chris Holder won the Grand Prix, and I was helping Chris in the pit. So for me, it was almost as good as riding, being involved and not actually having the pressure on you, just having to fill out a program and watch a few track grades. So it was enjoyable for me, and you know, it was a great night for Chris also.
Robert and Shane, I want to ask to spill a secret here, because forever and ever, and present day included, Australia continues to churn out a conveyor belt of Speedway talent. And given you guys don't have a domestic scene to speak of, you know, back home, how do you do it? How do you guys do it year in, year out?
Junior Speedway.
Yep.
That's the answer.
That's
grassroots, you know. I mean, kids over here can ride a Peewee at the Speedway track when they're 4 years old. You can get on a 125 at the age of 7. It's just starting at a young age.
Yeah, starting at a young age. Learn from basics instead of, I mean, over there you've got to be a bit older. Straight away you're going to a big track, which is difficult to learn on, you know.
I've seen a 10-year-old kid in the UK on a 500cc, and like that's just too big for him. You need to start on a smaller bike and get the basics, you know, get your style right, and build from there, and it just becomes second nature.
That makes sense, Brian.
It does, and I think that's hopefully something we're trying to introduce at Glasgow. So I know there's sort of plans afoot, or certainly suggestions that we could bring in a mini training track here. Would that kind of setup work in the UK, do you think? The same kind of setup that you've got over there?
It would work better in the UK because you've got more tracks and they're a lot closer than they are over here. You know, it's for the kids here in Adelaide, their second closest track's 4.5 hours drive away. So you know, over there you could. It'd be great if you had a lot of junior tracks. It would. You'd find you'd probably be World Team Cup champions within 10 years.
Yeah, very, very important to start at a young age on a small track. You learn the basics as you go on, pick up speed and pick up confidence. But yeah, if you try to go onto a big track and learn the basics. So it's very hard, very difficult.
Robert, going back to Facebook, there was one question in particular that I've been desperate to ask you all weekend from Alan McKenna, which is from Alan McKenna. Yeah, can you ask Robert if he had the bottom bit for the kettle he left me? Thank you. What's the story there?
Alan, I've been looking for the top bit for my kettle for the whole time. I don't know where it's gone.
You guys will need to hook up at some point.
Yeah. Plug or an Aussie plug?
If I might have to change a plug if you send it over to me, Alan.
Thank you for that one, Robert.
We're moving back to Glasgow, and another question that we did have on Facebook from Jack Besto. He was wanting to know from both of you your favourite Tigers lineup over the years. What was the best one that you rode in?
For me, I mentioned before, 2006 was my best Tigers lineup. It was Shane, Danny Bird, Kaki, Lee Dickin, David McCallum, James Cochran, myself. That was my favourite year I had as a Tiger.
A dream team, Robert. A dream team. 2006. I remember it well.
That was every year.
Shane,
loved all six.
Absolutely, Shane. Shane, one question for you, which came in from Gary Condy, actually. Thanks for your question, Gary. And he says, ask Shane if he feels there's anything which could be implemented to save injuries. I know he had an idea about the shape of the helmet causing issues. That's an interesting one, Shane. Can you recall what that was?
The helmet. They've got a device that you actually put inside your helmet. It sits right on the very top of your head. It's called Eject Doctor, I think it's called. It's just a little plastic bag that's folded up, sits on top of your helmet. You have a little connection that comes out the bottom of the helmet, and if you actually crash and have a head injury or something, you put a little pump on it, and you pump the little socket up that's on the side of your helmet, and it actually lifts the helmet off of your head without actually moving your neck or anything.
Okay.
That was something that I sort of spoke to the BSPA about, thinking about introducing into the sport. I know they use it with AMA motocross, but that was as far as it got, and it never got anywhere. But that was just one safety thing that I thought might have been able to help the sport. But I mean, possibly you might have more neck injuries in motocross in a sport where you're doing jumps rather than speedway. I don't know, but I think any advance on safety is a good thing that you need to shirk on. I think if any safety things done now, possibly it could be with the air fences, with riders actually going under the air fences.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to have a bigger flap on the bottom of them with dirt put on that flap that's sort of laid down on the track or something. But
yeah,
I know a few guys have hurt themselves pretty seriously from their bike hitting the air fence and the air fence lifting up and then the rider going under it and hitting whatever's behind that. So
the air fence
safety improvements.
Absolutely not. I mean, the air fence has been a great innovation for Speedway, and it saved an awful lot of injuries over the years. But as you say, there still is that issue with it lifting when the bike hits the fence first. Yeah.
Very true.
You in particular, Shane, when you were across here, were very active in going to the authorities here to try and influence certain things, and you were very keen on getting the riders involved and making those decisions about the sport. Do you feel as though you managed to make enough of impact while you were here, and is there still more needs to be done in that respect?
I think more needs to be done. I don't know whether I made an impact, but at the end of the day, I was a voice there for the riders to be able to communicate with the BSPA. If there was any issues, any problems, any dramas, I could go and speak to them about it. So I think it was important in that respect. Riders deserve to have their say in the sport and should have their say in the sport.
Robert, I hope I'm not asking you to repeat yourself. Earlier on, we spoke about the Speedway scene in Australia, and you guys, I guess, are accustomed and involved at Gilman in particular. What's your involvement there, Robert?
I don't really. I'm not really involved too much over there at the moment. I go along to some of the meetings and that sort of stuff, and when there's a practice on, I go along and try to help a few of the young boys out, give them some tips and that. But yeah, I don't really have a big involvement.
Solos are struggling a little bit in South Australia at the moment. We've probably only got a handful of riders, if that, at the moment. There's loads and loads of sidecars, so goes in circles. Solos have been big here, but at the moment sidecars are. So I mean, there's a few juniors coming up through the ranks at the moment, and in a few years' time, we should have some guys that step up. Shane Bowes has got 2 lads riding out at Junior Speedway now. Also Nigel Sadler, he's got a couple of lads riding. So the future's looking good down the road, but at the minute, there's not so many solo riders here. So, you know, hopefully in years to come, it'll pick up and get a bit better.
Excellent. Keep up the good work locally, lads.
Speaking of young riders, one of the photos that we put up on Facebook the other day when we were looking for questions was a team shot of you guys from the mid-2000s, I would suggest, with 2 men who are quite familiar faces still here in British Speedway, Mitchell Davey and Josh Grzyonic. It must be good to see those. You must be pleased to see those 2 guys still you know, earning their trade over here and performing well.
Yeah, Mitch is a Glaswegian now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Scottish national.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, the boys are going good. The boys are going all right. Both of them are still racing, and
I bet you they're still walking around in thongs and shorts too.
Yeah.
No, it's good that they're going well. I mean, they're both young, so they've got a lot of years left in them, and hopefully they'll fly the flag for us over there.
Shane, you were privileged enough, and I know I've spoken to you about it in the past, and it was a privilege for you to race for your country at quite senior levels. When you think back to some of the great Australian riders that you managed to team partner with, name some names. Tell us, remind us who you graced those tracks with.
I guess modern era guys like Craig Boyce and Lee Adams, Jason Crump. So. I remember starting out back in the days, I got to race against Phil Crump, which was used to be a bit of a highlight for me because he was a bit of a hero. He was the rider that we used to look up to, sort of living down south coast of Australia. So all the guys on the east coast tend to look up to Billy Sanders. But yeah, no, it was them guys were pretty cool. I mean, as far as Jason Lyons was another Glasgow rider. He'd done 22 years in the UK, same amount of time as I did, actually. We started the same year and we both retired the same year. So Todd Wiltshire was another rider. There's probably not too many riders that I look up to, but Todd Wiltshire was one. He was always a very good gator. He could get the first corner ahead of anybody on his day.
Some incredible names there, Brian, that Shane's managed to share the shield with.
Yeah, and Robert, can you give us any names of scalps you took over the years, perhaps in those Elite League days? Was there anyone in particular that sort of sticks out in the memory?
No one really sticks out as such. I know I bet quite a few of the top boys, which was good on my day. So yeah, no one sticks out as such, but there was quite a few, which was good at the time.
Ever beaten Shane when you've been in opposite team?
Opposite team,
probably.
Yeah.
No,
I wasn't with the scum, that's for sure.
Well, do you know, guys, Brian and I could throw questions at you all night long. I'm quite certain that we could run this show for 2 or 3 hours longer. You clearly need a refill, lads. Brian, any other questions, or can we let these guys go and enjoy the rest of their Sunday night?
No, I think we've run them dry by the looks of things. So we'll let them go and get refreshed.
Literally.
And yeah.
Shane and Robert, thanks.
Enjoyed talking to you, and hope the fans enjoy listening to us dribble at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Listen, isn't technology wonderful? And it's great to have had the chance to do this. So thank you very much. Thank you to Ange for setting this up, because you two were too unreliable to say yes or no to us. But so thanks for Ange for orchestrating things in the background. And it's been great to catch up with you both, guys. Robert, good to see you a year ago. It was just about a year ago. It was just after the Warsaw GP weekend, wasn't it, Robert?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I was there for a couple of weeks.
It was good to catch up with you and Leanne very briefly. You were in the middle of catching up with lots of people. I remember when I bumped into you. Shane, you get your travel tickets sorted with Ange to come back to the UK maybe next year, and we look forward to seeing you back at Ashfield. We'll make a bit of a fuss of you, and maybe get those 4 laps under your belt as well.
Who's the current track record holder now? Summers, is it?
Yeah,
it is Adam Summers. Yeah.
Tell him I'm coming for his.
Should he be worried, Shane? You're coming for his track record. Something to look out for, Brian.
yeah, I look forward to that. Appreciate your time, guys. Great catching up with you, and hopefully we'll see you both soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a nice evening. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.